Hi, my name is Joshua Lee, and you're watching the Permanent Rain Press.
Hi everyone, it's Chloe with the Permanent Rain Press today. I'm happy to be joined by Joshua Lee. How are you?
I'm so good. How are you? Happy New Year's.
Happy New Year's, happy 2025. It is shaping up to be such an exciting year for you with yourself in two projects, a season two for I think both of them, and we'll hopefully get to both series. We'll start off though with something very interesting, which is the fact that you have a computer science degree from Harvard. So, can you tell me about your transition to the arts and your decision to become a full-time actor or artist?
Yeah, it was definitely a journey. I I love school all my life, and I loved my time in college. And then when I worked full time in venture capital post grad, which moved me to New York. And when I was in New York, most of the friends that I made were in the arts. I was surrounded by arts the whole time. And in college, I was, dabbling in the arts still too. But when I was here in New York, it was just this itch in the back of my brain that was like, you have to pursue this. This is something that you've always wanted to do. Um, and then I think not even a year later, I decided to make that leap. It's been a crazy journey, but it's been super rewarding, and I don't see me going back anytime.
Who needs the overtime, the 9 to 5 kind of office job? But I'm so glad it's working out for you, and hopefully you had a lot of support from friends and family.
Oh my gosh, my friends and family were all super supportive. Some people I had to convince one way or the other. Some of my best friends were like, you as an actor? Like I've never seen you act before. But now that they've seen me in a few projects, they're like my biggest supporters.
What training do you have in the arts, and who have you really looked towards as inspiration?
Ooh, my training early on was primarily dance focused. I danced a lot growing up. And honestly, my biggest inspirations were a lot of contemporary arts, contemporary dance groups in Europe. I think of like Netherlands dance theater. I think of Batsheva. I gained a lot of inspiration from them, and then when I transitioned into acting, like Stephen Yeun, Justin Min, like all these actors who I just see on my TV all the time. It's them.
I was looking at some of your old videos, and I mean, you were part of some pretty like intense dance training classes, workshops. It's something that I mean, I guess in the dance is the dance community quite small, or is it quite large where you're from?
It's pretty small. I feel like everyone knows each other, and then as people continue, it just gets smaller. It's so funny when people look at me, they're like, he can't dance. He looks like he's a computer science major. But dance was one of my first true like artistic forms of expression, and it's something that I use every day in acting as well. So yeah.
It must be so cool to like combine those two loves in projects, and hopefully you'll get to do more of that down the road. We'll get into Exo Kitty, where you star as Jin. What can you share about your audition process and what drew you to wanting to be a part of this project?
Yeah, the audition process was honestly so much fun. When I first got the audition for my team, um, I read the sides, thought it was so fun, but so different from who I am as a person. Um, and then as I got further along in the audition process, I got to meet Anthony, and it just like clicked. It was so fun to act against him. It was such a fun time. And then I took this very spontaneous trip to Portugal, and I kind of forgot about the whole audition process. When I was there is when my manager called me and was like, "You have to come back to America. You have to fly to Korea next week." So I was like, "Oh, okay, perfect."
Do you remember what you had to do for your audition? Like, was there a specific scene or specific lines that you had to read?
Yeah, yeah, there was a specific scene. It wasn't in the actual show. It was just a scene that they had created that captured the essence of Jin. Um, it was just so much fun. And when I saw those lines, I was like, "Oh my gosh, this season's going to be so much fun."
It definitely is a wild ride. As always, a lot of teenage drama. What can you share about Jin and his background? Like, were there elements of his life that you discussed with others or created yourself that we don't see on screen but helped you shape him?
Yeah, I mean, Jin is such an interesting character. He's going through so much as like any teenager, high schooler would know. He's battling against the expectations of his parents, of his community, from himself, while also trying to figure out what makes him happy. And I think when creating the character of Jin, drew a lot of inspiration from my own life, like how we talked about before, of me transitioning from my corporate job and like sort of those expectations that I had for myself growing up into my transition to becoming an actor full time. Um, in terms of like things that I created for Jin and talked through, there's a lot about his family, whose parents were, I mean, some of that is in the writing, but some of that was like, for me, Jin is only sibling, things like that.
Do you see him as being kind of like a second generation, third generation in America?
Yeah, it's definitely giving second generation Korean American. Like, I feel so much empathy towards Jin. I think that's what made it so much fun to play.
He isn't outwardly queer at school when we meet him, so can you expand upon why he hides his sexuality to some degree? And second part of the question is like, did you consider how he came out to his parents, to his family, and his current relationship with them?
Yeah, no, this is a great question. I actually don't know if he really tried to hide that part of himself. I think that's what makes the writing of Exo Kitty so great, and it's like representation of queer people. It's that he was just living his life, and what other people expected of him is what other people expected of him. He never confirm nor deny. And then when Q confronts him in the queer club, it becomes this moment where their relationship is changed forever. And I think that kind of representation is just super cool. It's just people being people.
What are Jin's major qualities and personality traits that you wanted to focus on in your portrayal?
Yeah, I think when I first got the scripts, it would have been really easy to focus on like this hard, like playboy exterior, even though he has like such moments of kindness and like thoughtfulness. But what I really wanted to focus on with Jin was his playfulness. I feel like so much of who is as a person comes from a sense of play. Like when he's teasing Q, he thinks it's the most fun in the world. Um, when he is like, "Yeah, I'm gonna dance in this final number," heck yeah, it just all comes from a sense of play. And I think that was something I wanted to hone in on.
I love that we get to see that kind of softness and that playfulness come out because when we first meet him, there really is that toxic alpha male personality at the track at I believe is it episode one when we first meet your character?
Episode 2. Yeah.
Episode two. Okay. So yeah, it's nice to kind of have these layers to a character and get to explore that. And he does feel a lot of pressure running track due to his father's legacy at the Olympics. How does this affect him mentally and as a competitor?
I mean, having anyone to look up to who's like set the bar so high can be so stressful, as I'm sure anyone could relate to. And I think that's totally why he navigates the world in the way that he does in the beginning of the show. I mean, he puts so much pressure on himself to succeed. He needs to be the best. But I think what's really interesting about his journey is that with Q and through a lot of introspection from himself, he is able to differentiate what he wants for himself to make himself happy versus what he's doing for others to be a people pleaser.
And it can be really hard to kind of, draw those lines. So for him to kind of, you're like, I think I know, I think I understand that. You mentioned Jin and Q, and that was such a beautiful kind of interesting relationship to Q's friends, of course, but take me through those scenes at Sugar Bar and how you think the encounter in this new environment really kickstarted that romantic interest in each other that they hadn't had for years prior.
I mean, I think Q said it all. He, as soon as he sees him, he's like, "You've been giving me shit all these years, and you're gay." I think seeing Jin in a non-competitive light. I mean, like we all have layers to ourselves, and it's so easy for other people to prescribe an identity onto us based on like what they see. But I think, yeah, that moment was just so pivotal because it showed this other side of Jin where, he is queer and he takes an interest to Q. And I think it was just super fun to play. That was one of my first scenes I got to shoot too. So being with the entire cast there and filming at an actual queer club in Itaewon with background actors who were patrons of that queer club was it was so fun. The environment was great.
And how fun for you to, talk about that playfulness. He was so assertive in that moment because he basically ordered Q to dance with him. Like he wasn't taking no for an answer.
So when I first saw that scene, I gasped because that is just not who I am as a person. Um, but it was fun to see like Jin take charge in this regard because I feel like oftentimes Q is the one who's giving so much like advice to people and like being like the leader in a lot of these friendships that he has. And then for Jin to step in and continue this like alpha male exterior in the club scene was just super fun. I'm so scared for my friends and family to watch that scene. I think they're gonna die with laughter.
You're ready to get all the text messages and phone calls and be like, we saw you in the show.
Do not disturb.
In episode three, Q tells Jin that he's not interested in this idea of flirting through pranks. So, how does Jin take that comment to heart? Like, what does he like about Q that he really wants to take this new relationship seriously moving forward?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think Jin, up until then, thought his feelings were reciprocated with Q and thought that this was purely just the way they flirted. And then Q showing that vulnerability to me, at least playing Jin, was another like turning point in their relationship where Jin had to really think, hey, I like this person. If I want to continue to pursue a relationship with them, what does that mean? I have to think in terms of my own character and who I want to be as like a kind or person.
Do you think it's ever anything he considered previously that he maybe was a bit too, I want to say, playful, or did he ever think that he maybe had a bit of that toxic alpha male personality in him?
Oh, absolutely. I feel like everyone in high school, at least back like when I was in high school, we're all just figuring ourselves out and we put on these exteriors to give an air, a certain air of sometimes superiority to cover insecurities. I think absolutely it's something that he thought about, he knew, and in that moment had to address.
Sometimes it takes like someone important or someone newly important in our life to kind of tell us, to kind of knock us down a few pegs and, like you mentioned, make you think. Is there anything specific you remember from the ski cabin scenes in episode four? And notably the apology scene opposite Minho and Day.
Oh my gosh. First of all, that scene was so fun. But prior to that, I remember one of the first scenes I had in the ski cabin was when I was standing and everyone was looking at me, and I've never felt so like small, but I loved it. It was so much fun and people were improving and it was just so like the sparks were flying. It was super fun. In terms of when I'm confronted by Minho and Dae or I'm apologizing to them, I mean, getting called, what was it? A large poured, booger eating, bus farting loser. That was so fun. And you could tell that Sang-on and Min Young were just having so much fun in that scene. Um, Definitely some highlights. Those are definitely some highlights from set.
Watching the kind of stare down between the three of you is so comical. And then, of course, it's watching them attempt to trash talk because you could tell they weren't quite familiar with how to do it. But hey, they ended up making up, and I think it was kind of smooth sailing from there, having Jin and Q's life. And could you kind of feel that between the characters? Like, do you think Jin was like, okay, now I'm accepted into this group? Because he had only kind of previously interacted with Kitty and gotten along with her.
Absolutely. Turning point in his relationship with everyone else in the cast, for sure. Um, I'm just still thinking about the confrontation. My favorite part, sorry, this is like a tangent, but I remember Sang-on is saying like, admit it, in his like British accent. And for the first few takes, Min Young was saying like, admit it, in his normal accent. And then the take that made it, he randomly decided to copy Sang-on's British accent and was like, admit it. That destroyed me. That destroyed everyone in that room. It was so fun.
It's so great when you can kind of riff off each other and clearly they feel comfortable like going there and doing that improv and watching it make in is always a bonus. Tell me about the rolled ankle for Jin and losing his spot at regionals to Q. Like, was karma at play for him?
Yes, maybe it was karmic, but I think it was maybe one of the best things that could have ever happened to him. I mean, all this expectation and pressure that he's felt is, I mean, in the moment, for sure, Jin is angry, upset, scared. How it's going to affect his relationship with his father comes to mind. But then I think it's through that experience and literally having to sit down with himself and not being able to run, where he's able to think about what he wants to do and what makes him happy.
How about watching Q win and get scouted? Again, is it just kind of piling on those initial fears for him because he's the one who also really needed or wanted to go to a D1 school on scholarship. I think he mentions that otherwise he would be considered a failure.
I mean, so many mixed emotions. On one hand, you're super happy for Jin is super happy for Q. Jin, really likes Q, so of course he's happy, but there's also regret, there's shame. It's all those emotions, and I think you hit the nail on the head. It's everything.
Tell me about the cherry blossom ball set, and do you recall anything from those scenes? Because Set Deck did such a beautiful job with the coloring.
Set deck, like the production design, everything, the lighting, the costumes, the hair, the makeup, everything was so good. I remember it in pictures. Like the first time I saw people in their, cherry blossom ball outfits, their hair and their makeup done, I was just like floored. I remember particularly when Audrey, who plays Stella, um, comes out and there's this like fire background behind her. I was like, yeah, this is epic, and her bob is bobbing like she looks so good.
So she actually got her hair cut kind of for that makeover. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think so. And it looks so good. And I think she's still rocking it right now. It fits her so well.
That was such a great reveal, and I'm speaking with Audrey on Monday, and I'm excited to ask about that kind of transformation for
Oh,
her. How about the different sets that you filmed at? Like, where was the Cherry Blossom Ball filmed? Like, was it actually like an upscale bar? Or was it created in a studio?
yeah, the Cherry Blossom Ball venue was at a rooftop, very nice rooftop like bar lounge area of a hotel somewhere in Korea. It was super fun filming there. I mean, the other sets, sometimes it took like 2 hours to get to, but those car rides were some of my favorite because it's when you got to bond with the cast the most, or sleep, because a lot of times we needed sleep. But one of my favorite sets was in the finale, the performance set. It was just super cool what they're able to build. Never seen anything on that scale before. It was super awe-inspiring.
For Jin, how was that conversation with Q at the talent showcase where Jin admits that he may be ready to give up running for good? I know you kind of alluded to it prior, but why does he think it's the right time to do so, even though it's kind of in contrast to those fears?
Yeah, I mean, I think immediately it's because his friend needs help. His new friend Day needs help, and Jin is a fantastic dancer, so he knows he could go on there and help him. Um, I think it's something scary for him to confront, especially with someone whose opinion he values as much as Q's. Um, but I mean, what a fun way to confess by throwing away the boot and dancing on stage with the person you like next to all the new friends you made.
When do you think that his foot kind of healed and that he didn't need his boot anymore? Like, was it
Ah,
before the cherry blossom ball? Because Q kind of steps on him and he's like, "Oh, sorry," and he's saying he's actually still hurt. But I'm thinking maybe it was before then. What's your opinion on that?
oh my gosh, that's such a good question. I mean, definitely he was hurt still during the race. He was
He didn't fake it for sure. Yeah.
It's not a good idea. If you're an athlete and you get injured, please rest. But I think it was probably still hurting during the cherry blossom ball. I think he really did want to get better for Q. I think the dance did mean a lot for him, but definitely a lot better than he let on for sure.
And that promposal was such a cute scene as well. I know I didn't mention it prior, but it must have been fun to kind of, be up on that scooter and have that little moment for them.
Oh my God, it was so fun. I mean, the scooter was in the script for a long time. Um, and when I saw the scooter in person, it was just the most beautiful, funny thing. And I practiced a lot. Rolling around in that thing was not easy. But yeah, it was so fun. I remember that scene, acting against Anthony and having Kitty there, having Anna there was just such a fun core memory from that experience. Um, yeah, I mean, it makes me think back to my high school promposals and how I should have stepped up my game.
And you're like taking notes but you're like, oh, can't go back in the past now.
Yeah.
But if you had a time machine, do it a little differently.
Yeah.
Speaking about that huge talent showcase performance, how was it getting for you to perform on stage with this cast, your new family, and especially being Day's backup dancers? It was such a nice moment for so many of them who have had these little riffs to come together.
I mean, I'll be Min Young's Day's backup dancer any day. I talk about a voice. He's such an amazing singer. If you don't know already, he has musical theater background. The vocals in that performance are his own. But it was so much fun. The rehearsal process for that, we didn't have too much time, but luckily, everyone involved has had some kind of dance training, whether it's formal or the pandemic TikTok dances. So I look back at those rehearsal times so fondly. It was super fun.
And you got to do some little trick moves as well up in front. I bet they were like, okay, who's the best dancer here? And you were like,
Oh my
I have
gosh.
loads of experience.
Basically, I mean, Reagan and I think, have the most dance experience. Reagan is also an incredible, incredible dancer. So we both had like these little solo moments. The choreographer just showed me this breakdancing move and was like, okay, do it. And I couldn't say no, so I just did it. And I'm glad it made the cut. I think it looks super cool. It was a lot of fun to do.
You were like, way to be put on the spot, but you guys are professionals, so they were like, I'm sure you can handle anything.
I mean, yeah, it was super fun. I now know I can do that for any future gig. So, hey,
What was it like working with this cast? Like, what is your favorite or one or two absolute favorite memories from filming, whether on set or just getting to spend time together in Seoul?
yeah, I think one of the coolest things about filming EXO Kitty season two was the fact that we were all in Korea and we really had to lean on each other for support. But one of my favorite memories outside of set was shopping. I'm wearing the shirt that I bought while shopping, and I didn't realize until like a month in after I bought it, Anthony pointed out that it says established. So that's something fun. But yeah, just getting to hang out with the cast, and then on set, I think the talent show, which is one of my favorite memories as a whole. Like that location was stunning. The set design was stunning, and having everyone there and it being like a lot of our all of our last days on set, just meant a lot.
How about the crew and the creative team? Like, what was it like on the set, a Netflix production and being such a large scale?
Oh my gosh. It was so fun. I mean, they were all so collaborative from the showrunners to the writers. So some of the writers were like DMing me, like posts the show, just sending words of encouragement. A lot the crew was phenomenal. Like I still stay in touch with a lot of them. Um, and they were all just the best people to be around when I didn't have, my people that are like my friends and family back home. They were really, really the best.
Amazing. Well, I can't wait for people to meet Jin as part of season two, and hopefully more to come with that. The show itself is peppered with K-drama imagery and moments. What can you say about these elements and being inspired by a genre that has been so popular and celebrated?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm being completely honest, I am a casual viewer of K-drama. But from what I understand between like the differences between, Korean drama and maybe more Western media, it's like those slow burn relationships. And those elements in Exo Kitty is what I think makes Exo Kitty Exo Kitty. It's like the constant what's going to happen next or are they going to be together? I think that's what makes the show so fun.
What can you say about your experiences as an Asian American artist, and how has your South Korean culture and heritage impacted your identity and career?
Oh my gosh, this is a big question. I think no, but a great question. I am very lucky to say that like my parents instilled me within me a lot of like, Korean values. I grew up very entrenched in like the Korean community back at home. Um, and I think in some ways, I talked about this before, but I felt a lot of pressure to, follow certain career paths. But also, I think I'm so lucky to have the parents and the family and support structure that I have that they support me through anything that I do. Um, but yeah, being an Asian American for sure has impacted the way I navigate life and just excited to see what happens in the future with my acting career.
And you are fluent in Korean and Mandarin, is that correct?
Yes.
Has it kind of helped, do you think, connecting with your culture to be able to keep up the second, third languages?
Yeah, absolutely. My mom was the Korean school principal, so I had unfortunately no chance, but looking back, I'm so grateful that she really made sure I valued learning Korean. And then Mandarin I learned because China was the first country I went to outside the US. It just always left an impression on me. So since then, I think I was like 15, I would go back every year until COVID. Um, and yeah, oh my gosh, I need to go back to China. It's been so long.
I mean, it's possible. Hopefully another project takes you out there, and it's so nice that you mentioned, having the parents that you have. And speaking about careers, you have another career as a pilot. That's correct.
Oh my gosh, you know so much. I pick up a lot of random hobbies. One of them was, training to get my single engine private pilot's license. I wouldn't call it a career, but it is a leisure activity that I partake in with my friends. It's just super fun to like take them to a 2 hour trip away, get food, and then fly back. That sounds crazy to say, but it's yeah.
I mean, it's always nice to kind of fill your schedule with things that you enjoy and that you can enjoy with others. And you're the second like pilot I've spoke to within the past year, which is crazy, who's also like an actor. So it's always nice to have these hobbies. We'll get into Gangnam Project to kind of round things out. You have season two upcoming. What can you share about what's next for Supreme, Radiate, and this group at OME?
Yeah. Um, Great question. I don't know what I'm allowed to say because the show is coming out later, I think in the springtime. But basically, what I can say is you can expect a lot more numbers of dancing and singing and all the stuff that we love from season one. In terms of the group, my gosh, it's so hard not to spoil it, but there are a lot of things that happen between the members that you're just gonna have to watch and wait and see.
Because they did have their kind of debut together at the end of season one. And uh, is it correct? It's filmed in both Seoul and out in Canada and Ontario, right?
Yeah, it's filmed in Hamilton, Toronto, Seoul.
Have you enjoyed being in Canada?
Oh my gosh. Actually, yes. So those cast members I still see all the time. It's such a quick flight from Toronto to New York. I see them all the time. Um, it was my first real introduction to Canada. I think I'd been to Montreal a little bit before, but it was super fun. Food is amazing. People are so nice.
You can feel that Canadian love. Which has been your favorite song and dance number so far and why? So I guess in season one, which is your favorite?
Ooh. Um, it's this duet that I have with Brianna Kim who plays Chanmi. It's called Fake. It's it's a duet. It's super cute. The lyrics are the music is made by August, who does music for like 17, BTS, and all that stuff. It was just super fun to film. But I think I can say this in season two, there's this number called Empire, where I just very cheesily look into the camera, and it is gonna be a hard watch for me, but it was super fun to film, and it was a lot of fun for everyone.
I'm excited to see it. I think my favorite ones in season one were you were part of Unity. That was kind of one of those opening ones. Fake or Fake It was the sweet one, and we found each other just for its significance in the season finale. And you kind of all came together as a group. Was that one a really fun one to kind of film and wrap up the season?
Oh my God, we all cried. I think for a lot of us, it was our first TV shows being either on TV or being series regulars. So having each other meant a lot to us. So I remember after performing that, every time we would need 2 minutes to like wipe away our tears. And it was so cute.
How special has it been to now not only be a part of one but two talented ensemble casts that have become family and both just so happen to kind of be female led as well?
Yeah, I mean, talk about being female led, Asian led. It was so amazing. And I think from each experience, I'm taking so many different things away from it, whether it's like, professional stuff and like being a better actor, or also just friendships that I think I'm gonna have, or I know I'm gonna have for the rest of my life. Um, yeah, it's been truly special, and oh my gosh, I'm getting emotional. Yeah, it's just very, very grateful.
That's such a wonderful way to end things off. I have one more question for you, our signature question. If you could be any ice cream flavor, which would you be and why?
Oh my gosh. I don't know about the why part, but because I love it so much, it's either fish food. I don't know. Do you know that Ben and Jerry's flavor, fish food? If I'm trying to come up with a why, I think you just get a little bit of everything. You get a little bit of everything. Or am I allowed to choose more than one? Because my top three is fish food, pistachio, and the mango talenti. I'm not gonna bore you with the other whys, but I think I'll stick mainly with fish food. That's my favorite.
I mean, a three scoop ice cream cone doesn't hurt anybody.
Exactly.
That was perfect. Thank you so much, Joshua, for taking the time to chat. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate you. Happy New Year's.
Happy New Year's. And for all those watching, you can make sure to catch Joshua in XO Kitty. Season 2 is out on Netflix January 16th. And we'll see you next time.